shitting,
Yeah.
and that you weren't like on the call because you were shitting, and I was just
What
like,
Dan said.
shit on the call, like I am. I'm shitting. I got the buffaloes behind me. I'm shitting, bro.
Shitting with buffaloes. And go live here. What's up, everybody? So we're waiting on our guest. He is jumping in, and I'm excited about the guest today because he is actually one of the OG founders of this organization and had to take a step back for various reasons, and still plays a huge role. He always shares stuff. He gives advice when asked, and he's the man. And we'll introduce him in just a second.
He shares like a 4-inch roll.
And then that's about all he's got. Don't shame his 4 inches.
It's a good 4 inches, guys.
He provides a lot of support and help.
He's pooping right now. He'll be on.
And then I need to go to here. And what I'm doing now, as usual, because we do our podcast live, is I'm just sharing it out to all the different platforms and getting people involved and letting everybody know that we are live. So for those of you who will be listening in the future, just know that's why we're not getting hardcore yet. We will in just a second once he joins and once everything's done.
That's what she said.
But how are you doing, Rocco? What's going on, man?
I'm doing good. I had a fucking week. I had 2 weeks. I switched to day shift.
Yeah.
I'm not on mids anymore. And it's definitely a change with this team. I've been a little stressed. I've already been called out for favoritism and targeting and special treatment and all this other shit.
Oh, gosh.
Which I shut down immediately. The person who fucking called me out for it deleted it as soon as, like, I had a conversation with him before he sent it, before I noticed he sent it. Then I left, and then he deleted the Slack because of what I told him during the Slack, and he was just like, "Oh, that was not warranted." And then there's just like there's a whole bunch of shit going on, but it's like it's definitely a change, and I feel like my leadership has to like start over because I left my old team. I was with them for like 3 years. I got this whole new team, and it's like I leave my 3 children at home, and I have 15 more children at work that I have to fucking raise.
That is the challenge.
It is. And I mean, I wasn't hired for that job because I have an astounding amount of experience in quality. I didn't have any. I was hired there for leadership. Literally, they told me. They're like, we're hiring you because you're leadership. And
yeah,
I was like,
that's
okay.
cool.
So,
which makes sense also. I'm happy they saw that in you.
So I went in there and front half nights, my shift that I was with forever they've been the highest producing team in the department. And now I'm switching and it's like I'm transferring.
Yeah.
It sucks.
It's a lot of work.
But it's like a project. It keeps me on my toes and made the week fly by, and
that's cool.
It's not a hair clump. I have a daughter, Tanner. I respect the.
Did he text you?
He did, and I respect the hell out of that. Thank you.
He can't call that out on here to embarrass you.
You can totally call me out on live and embarrass me.
I would love that.
100%.
I was looking at that when you walked through the door.
Is a hair clump somewhere from your dog? But no, this is
puke.
No, it's not puke. It's just green and white, like paint or something like that. I have kids, but this is the OG hoodie. I have to wear it.
Yeah, that is one of the OGs.
LMAO, love you. I love you too, man. I love you too.
You got to call him out on the live, dude.
But yeah, call me out for everybody else to laugh at me and stuff. If there was something, you look scared. Whatever that pop up was, you looked absolutely horrified.
Me?
Yeah, that video that popped up when you switched it.
He said I tried telling him on the low. No, dude, you gotta call him out loud, man.
That's what this podcast is for. You fucking humiliate me.
That's right.
And then I can humiliate you because it's not hair.
Right. And you're making fun of his daughter, and that's not cool, dude.
Yeah.
That's not cool.
He didn't make fun of my
That's actually
daughter.
kind of messed up that he did that.
Yeah, don't make me tell our wife.
Unreal, bro. God, how dare you, Tanner?
Melissa wouldn't like that.
Nah. No, Melissa she wouldn't respect that
Yeah,
either.
she'd be like,
What
"How
are you
dare you make
doing,
fun of
bro?
our
I'm
daughter?"
actually surprised. I'm a little disappointed. That's fantastic. Yeah, as we're waiting on Carr here, because he is definitely joining. He said, "You
Gaslighters.
gaslighters." That is textbook gaslighting. Was what we just did.
I'm a whole wood stove. Baby.
Yeah. Oh,
No gas here.
that's right, dude. Um, I've also been having a very busy week. We got the Poconos retreat coming up, March 7 to 9. Hopefully we can get some more guys to come out. We have some people coming out from Massachusetts. And I think some other local guys are going to be popping by, which is really cool. But yeah, we need to definitely push that thing out a little bit more and see if we can get some more guys out there. We also just partnered up with an all police officer softball team. Officially, we've been sponsoring their local team for a little while now, 2 years, and there's some major successes actually that have come out of that, which I am so happy about. I will not talk about them here live. That is not something that we will mention live out of respect for their job and who they are and everything. But there's been some major successes, and that's really fantastic news. So we're upping it and we're supporting them, their travel team. It's all police officers that are on the team, and we're also going to host a retreat for them. We're planning that out as well, and dive in more to really uniting the team and helping them out through whatever they need help with, and kind of go. So um, Chris is jumping on in a couple of minutes. He's running it through Safari right now.
That's
so.
where he is, by the way.
What's that?
Massive two shits.
So just unreal how actually clever that was, and you just came up with that on the spot.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you. You're the man.
Two shits.
Massive two shits. It's where he is. And yeah, I'm excited for the story that we're going to get today. Chris has gone through a lot, and he has grown so much. He's actually one of my best friends since we were like 17, 18 years old. There was actually a time period where he didn't really know me very well and he didn't like me. And then he recognized, wait, this dude's just like saying things as it is. And I actually respect that a lot. And I like that a lot. And then even more through Refit, we got even closer. There was one point, because I really struggle with memory and other things as well. And I repeated something a couple of times and was asking him questions about things. And he actually thought I was like questioning him or something like that, which is fair. And then one day, it just I saw it in his eyes, this like moment of understanding, that I really just genuinely do not remember things, and I really struggle with that. And he literally sat there. He's like, "Hey man, before I answer you, he's like, you really just don't remember, right?" And I was like, "What? What do you mean?" He's like, "You said that to me already, like that idea like 2 days ago, and I'm already working on it." He's like, "You just don't remember, right?" And I was like, "Dude, yeah, I don't even remember having that conversation at all." And he's like, "I got you." And like since then, and that was like 5 or 6 years ago, since then, he and I have this like really cool thing where whatever we're going through, I know he's one of my guys, one of the first people that I contact to when I'm like going through something or need something to get some real advice on. Chris is like that guy that I hit up for that. And it was a really cool moment where our friendship really grew. Speak of the devil, here he is, the man himself. And it was a really cool moment where, like, truly, like, friendship wise, it was like a moment where he really just saw me, and it's where I recognize I saw him as a person too, as someone who really is trying to be better and understanding and all those other things. And his reputation precedes him even with his soldiers as well. So I'm talking good about you right now. I'm talking you
Hi.
up, brother. Uh, and his leadership, precedes him in a sense that his guys, whenever we bring up that, yeah, Carr was actually one of the original fucking founders of this and really helped out morph and form where we're going with everything and how we're operating to this day, in fact. And that we show up quote actually comes from a story that he actually executed in helping out Rocco here. And, it's really awesome to have him on today with us and talk to us and kind of take us through the way he thinks and some of the stories he has about growth. And, he just got back from Syria, a deployment over there, which I got probably one of the coolest fucking photos that I could ever imagine from Chris Carr, which is, oh man, I have it somewhere. I don't think I could share it on the live because I don't think I have it on my computer, but dude, it is hilarious. And, it's him in silkies and a fucking tank top and his kit. And he's looking at drone footage because they were getting mortared at the time. And his guys are laughing in a stairwell with him. And it's just, and he's all calm and shit. It's just the perfect picture of Chris. And I feel like you manifested that photo, dude. Like
That's
that
who he
is.
as a person.
So I totally didn't. So that was one of like the more large, like preemptive, like big days for us to get attacked. So me and my buddy basically said, if we're gonna get attacked, we're gonna do it our way, because everybody's like, oh, just stay in kit all day, make sure you're in full uniform. And I looked at my buddy Rogo, and I was like, no, like I'll make sure my guys are, I guess, but I'm not. So he had like his Ranger Silkies on and no shirt in his kit, and I came down in my tank top and in the shorts because I was just in bed sleeping, just because you're supposed to go through the day like it's normal, which I guess it is there, but
so, coming out looking like a PUBG game.
Yeah.
Yeah, like he spent $20 on his fucking skin.
Yeah, dude. So Wade actually just said, this looks like he has 7 kids and is late on his mortgage. JK, love you, Chris.
That's crazy. I go to the gym too. That's insane.
Yeah, dude, that photo was, when you sent that to me, I laughed for a good 5 minutes, like actually laughed out loud. Like that was so
perfect.
I
didn't know one of my guys, Hawkins, we call him Old Man, because he when I first got him in my squad, my platoon sergeant's like, hey, me and Hawkins are gonna have to fast for PHA, and I'm like, all right, cool. So I went to Hawkins. I'm like, hey man, just reminder, you gotta fast. This guy looks like he's 40 plus years old, so I'm like, gotta fast. And he's like, what? Why? And I'm like, what do you mean? Like, you and Darhoon always have to fast. He's like, how old do you think I am? And I was like, I don't know. Everybody said you're old, so it just makes sense. He's like, I'm 32. And I'm like, you have been through it a lot.
You've been through so much, bro. It's written all over your hairline.
And then I found out our buddy Joe DiStefano, he's the one that kind of like manifested that and like told everybody like Hawkins is 40 plus, and every drill apparently he was like changing his age.
That is hilarious.
There's a meme of that out there, and it's like this old fucking it's like it's a whole bunch of people, and they look young, and they're like, oh, I'm 29 and I'm a mechanic, and he's like, I'm 41 and I'm a hairstylist, and it's just this old fucking dirt man, and he's like, I'm 22 and I'm an infantry soldier. He's fucking like 90.
That's hilarious. So Chris, bro, let's start it out. Let's start out with you joining and why you decided to join, and let's go through it, man. Let's get to know Chris Carr a little bit.
So I always wanted to growing up. I just never really had the balls to, honestly. It was kind of one of those things where I didn't have the confidence or faith that I could do it. Like go through basic training and all. And then I was kind of at that road in my life where I'm like, not happy. What am I doing? The job that I had wasn't working out, and kind of do something going. Sorry, I'm trying to get ready also. I run out. So I was dating Kendall. This is 2010, so I was dating Kendall at the time. Our first of like million attempts. And I told her, I was like, hey, I think I'm going to join the military. And she's like, really? And I was like, yeah, I guess. She's like, where did that come from, man? I was like, oh, I've been talking to my buddy Dead. So our buddy Dead Mike's like the one that like really like got me kind of locked into it. And I don't know, he says it's cool and he likes it. And it's something I wanted to do. I just never thought I could. And she's like, all right, that's fine. So I originally was going to go active duty. I didn't know anything about the Guard or anything whatsoever. She's like, well, I kind of want you to be home. And I was like, well, I'm going to be active, so I'm not going to be home. And then I was talking to Deadmore, and he's like, yeah, you can go Guard. You'll be home, do your training. Maybe you'll deploy, probably not. And I was like, all right, that's cool. He's like, you can work on your life and go to school. And I was like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. So I ended up changing over to the Guard, and kind of went from there. The first 3 years of the Guard, I was pretty relaxed, kind of quiet, trying to like kind of find myself in the military, like who I was going to be. I think I was only really loud with Rocco. I got there, we were the same rank. We connected and clicked right away. But aside from that, like, I was very kept back. I didn't like to speak my mind, talk, or anything like that. And then leading up to our first deployments, kind of me and Rocco got our corporals, and that's kind of where it went off me there as far as my career taking me. So the kind of like going into the military wasn't anything special or crazy. It's something I wanted to do. I just didn't think I could. And kind of talking to Dead's kind of what pushed me to like, hey, you can probably do this. So I did. It's very, very basic story.
Yeah, it's cool. And if Dead Mike ever becomes alive, we know there's an issue.
For sure.
Yep. Yeah, I love Dead Mike. He's a really good dude. He rejoined, didn't he? Isn't he in right now?
I believe he's back in from what I saw on social media.
Yeah, I gotta follow up with Dead, man. I haven't talked to him in a little while. Definitely would love to catch up with him. He's a really, really good dude.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
He's probably one of the realest motherfuckers out there, just in the sense of like he always gave a shit about people. Like he always wanted to do best by people. His friends, his family stepped up. When he had his kid, and he got his now wife pregnant and everything. Like he was just ready to go. Like he was nervous, but he was ready to go.
Sure.
Like he wasn't going to abandon or anything. It spoke volumes to his character. So when you're in the military, man, and I know that being in the Guard, it's definitely different because you have to have your home responsibilities too, and you have to have your military responsibilities. How do you think that's helped you and like kind of guided you through your life, being able to step into that of taking care of yourself, right, and also taking care of your soldiers?
I think it's taught me a lot about prioritizing, understanding what's important there in the moment, what's important long term versus short term. Weighing things going on at home versus when I'm in the military. So like I've had plenty of things going on in my life where it's affected me and my civilian side. And, the second you put on the uniform and kind of walk in a sense, like we only say, but you have to kind of shut it off. Not fully, you can vent, talk to people, work on it if you need to, but depending on your position in the military, the leaders especially, we kind of have to shut it off to not show at that time, it's time to work. We have to get this done. Not saying keep it in and shut off completely and like that's it. But like the second, especially in the Guard, right? We only have 2 to 3 days a month to train. So when you get there in the leadership position, you're right away, you're go to your meeting, find out what you have to do, get your guys going. Like there's no kind of like stopping. There's barely time to remember that you have to eat. So I think a lot of it taught me how to prioritize and really understand myself as how much I could take in on my own, work through what I needed to, and then work on me and not forget to work. I think not forgetting to work on myself took me a while. I've gone through therapy. I'm in therapy now, and a lot of it was I would just kind of bottle up inside, not intentionally because I didn't want to talk about it, but just because I felt like I had to completely shut it off. And then I would forget to kind of open it back up and, hey, the real world's still here. We can't stop. We have to continue to work on it. So that was a big part of it.
That's pretty fantastic, actually, and actually something you're mentioning with the leadership role and the weight that comes with it. So that's pretty recent for you too. In the past, well, not recent, but in the past, probably like 5 years, you really stepped into bigger leadership roles, and you're noticing that transition and that change from when you were, lower enlisted and
Yeah,
lower
so
rank.
it's probably been a little longer than 5 now, only because when me and Rocco first deployed, our ever-loving
2014.
our ever-loving squad
You're going
leader
on 10 years.
got kicked off deployment in the middle of it. I mean, it was a fault to him, but it wasn't. So I had to step into his role immediately to take care of the squad while he was gone. And then Rocco had to step up because we kind of split the responsibility with it and weighing everything. Luckily, it was our little vacation, so it wasn't crazy. We could manage it very well, but it was a good stepping stone and kind of like eye opening. Like, this is what the squad leader really does. This is how you have to manage it. Now I have to kind of step up and talk to people I'd be terrified to talk to at that time.
Right.
So, and then
kind of thrust you into that position to
for
speak.
sure. Like me and Rock were team leaders, I think, since we were like privates. We were always kind of put into those larger leadership roles, which is cool because that means, they saw something in us, whether we saw it or not. Which was good for me because, like I said, when I first got in the military, aside from, bullshitting with like Rocco and a couple of my buddies, like I was very quiet when it came to leaders. I didn't try and voice my opinion over stuff. I just did what I had to do, and that was it. So it kind of pulled me out of that shell, which was really good for me.
Yeah, that is good.
It's kind of like the whole, throwing the baby into the pool thing and letting them swim. And
Yep.
It's definitely like culture shock in terms of like when you get into the military, you're unsure of what's going on. You get to your unit, you're used to like drill sergeants and everything, and you're nervous about what the culture is going to be in your new unit,
right?
And you kind of figure out what your role is as an E1, E2, and E3. And then, like you said, as an E3, our unit was smaller, the roles were available, and we just kind of like pushed each other and we excelled together. And I think he was like alpha team leader and I was like Bravo team leader at some points, and it was definitely, it's culture shock. It teaches you really fast and it pushes you to get to that point at a really fast pace, get you out of your comfort zone. And I think that's the best way to learn in any situation. I'm definitely a doer, not a sit down and listen kind of person.
Right. So something I learned that I found to be very fascinating is so I was talking to a Delta Force recruiter, and he said that they actually really try to go for National Guard Special Forces units National Guard Special Forces units to pull from, because they have the responsibility of home life and also the military, which leads to more responsibility in that person to take on accountability. Have you found that to be something that has helped you in your own life, like the ability to take on more accountability for when you're doing things, or for even taking your own mental health into your own hands?
Yeah, for sure. I think at times too, and Kendall can definitely attest, I try to take on more as well than what's needed. Okay, she said sometimes. So it definitely teaches you how to kind of take on bigger roles, responsibilities, kind of adapt to them a lot quicker than maybe some people. It's definitely a huge. The guard was a big benefit in my life. It really structured me, who I am, and kind of change. Just like you've known me for forever. I'm a million times different than what I was in 2010, 2011. So it's definitely structured me to a different person. I'm not afraid to take on the responsibilities anymore. I'm not afraid to lead them. It's changed me as a whole. It made me realize things I'm big on, especially complimenting people when they kind of, with like mental health and all, right? Like, they're one of the hardest things for us is to admit, like, hey, we have some kind of issue, even whether it's small or not. I'm huge on when people bring that to me. And, hey man, I got this issue. Like, I'm real big now. I'm like, that's awesome. Like you're able to see this. Like that's the first battle to see in a minute. So it definitely helped me a lot with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like the accountability factor really comes into play with all of that too, right? Like even for yourself and how you stepped up and how you recognized you needed to get some support yourself and how you're doing that for yourself to
Yeah.
this day. What do you think has been one of the hardest things for you before getting the support that you needed and help that you needed? Like, what was the breaking point that really got you to the point where you really wanted to get and become
So
better?
there was a couple things. I never really looked at like what keeping something in can do to somebody. The first eye opener, not on me, but just in general, was we had a soldier. Mine and Rocco's squad. After the first deployment, we went out to the bar for our dining out or something, and our squad leader that got kicked off was there. Everything was cool, everything was good, and then our one soldier kind of like looked at him and he's like, "Fuck you," and we're like, "What?" And he just started crying, and we're like, "What's wrong?" And he's like, "You left me, like you left us," and it was huge for me because I was learning how to talk to soldiers and things like that, but I wasn't learning as far as picking up on any kind of cues like that there's something wrong, that there's something kind of like kept in. And I thought back on that like during the deployment, and there was 2 cues where like you could tell like this guy was upset and like bothered. And like kind of like how like Rocco said, like, throwing the baby into the pool, it's as the squad leader, you're taking on sort of like a dad role in a sense in some of these kids' lives. And that was probably the first eye opener where I saw that. So I saw, that he didn't tell anybody that he was affected that the squad leader left. And it wasn't the squad leader was like, screw you, I'm leaving. Like, it was just a rough situation, but that's not what it was in the soldier's eyes. So I think that was one of the first things I really ever saw to where keeping something inside can affect somebody. My second deployment, the beginning of the deployment when we were in Texas for our pre-mob, I knew I had like a general like anger problem, like most people, right? But I didn't see how much it affected others and my soldiers on. I was a team leader at the time, but I was the squad leader. Like, it's the way it worked out for that deployment from the get-go. And I was talking to my soldiers. We were doing some training, and the one soldier came up to me and he's like, "I'd really like to come and ask questions." I'm like, "Well, I'm your team leader. You're supposed to." He's like, "No, you're not approachable whatsoever." He's like, "You're just always mad." And I was like, "No, I'm not." He's like, "You're always pissed off. You always have like an attitude with your responses, this, that, and the other." And I kind of started seeing more of what he was saying as far as like I didn't have, in a sense, of full and welcoming face. I was always very, very serious. I took my passion for the training and all, and I kind of took it over. I kind of spoke to them and trained them. So I think that was the first kind of time I really saw that my anger is affecting others in a sense, and I'm not approachable my soldiers, which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
So, and then with Kendall, I think that's when I really, my past in general, affected me way more than what I thought. I have my PTSD just from my past in general, but I never really saw it as a problem. I always thought it was kind of like growing stones, stepping stones, and I was like, I've been through so much, like I'm so strong and everything, and I was, not that I wasn't, but I didn't really see how it affected me and how I treated certain situations and others, and kind of drove certain people away and all. So I think Kendall was a big help with that and kind of pushed me towards therapy in general, really seeing and admitting that there was something going on.
How did that affect you with going into Syria? Like when you now have this deployment that's something that could be and turn into combat scenarios, like what do you think that your past and like you going to therapy made you a better leader and soldier overall?
Yeah, for sure. The therapy, especially because it taught me, it's opened my eyes to what things I kind of had going on, what things triggered me, what things I was overreacting with, or things like that. I learned to kind of sit back and analyze and go, is this really this big of a deal right now? Like, do I need to be at the level that I'm at? Not always, obviously. I'm still working, but I at least started acknowledging, being able to say, and then the therapy taught me kind of really how to relax and put it carrying it inside. It helped with relax me during the serious situations in Syria, and helping me pick up with cues. Just like I said, with that one soldier in the past, like I'm a lot better with picking up with cues now with people if I see that there's something off. And now I know how to properly address them and pull them aside and talk and work through. So that helped a lot keeping camaraderie, the soldiers' mental health in general better. That's what I needed was my soldiers to be on. I needed them to be helping me be mental healthy and ready to go. So being able to kind of see things that they may not be able to see, pull them aside, talk and work on it, I think helped the squad a lot. And then with everything I've kind of been through, in a weird way, helped me just stay generally calm in whatever situations we kind of had over there, and just really see that the big picture of what needs to be done and not shut down and freak out, things like that. So therapy definitely helped in the long run.
Yeah, that's pretty that's a narrative that I think a lot of not just military, but law enforcement, first responders in general, and even civilians need to hear is that when you go through tough situations, no matter what it is in your life, that can be used to make
Yeah.
you better if you actually apply the work.
Yep. Yeah,
I
absolutely.
need to say, I've known you for a fucking long time. I think everybody here knows that, but uh, I didn't think anybody remembered that situation with that soldier other than me.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't know I could become more impressed with who you were as a leader and a soldier until now. But that had a lot to do with shaping who I was as a leader as well. Um, from that was my first real like exposure to what leadership could cause harm, to a
Yeah.
team. And um the fact that you remember that and had that much effect on you too. I never even fucking mentioned that uh to anybody else after that
Yeah.
happened.
It was.
So to hear that coming out of your mouth
Yeah.
is
It
wild.
was the, that whole scenario just kind of, there was no cue signs, nothing. It just kind of happened, and it was a huge eye opener and kind of smack in the face to the parties involved, and it was really sad, extremely
Yeah.
sad. Um,
Yeah, that's especially when someone says, and I think you're alluding to the kid that said, "You
yeah,
left me," and it's almost like a father scenario.
yeah,
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 like that kind of scenario is insanely difficult, and that's something that you hear over and over again. Like even Dan mentions it now, where he's like, "I looked at Gunny like he was a father figure, and I placed him on a pedestal that." Like he earned for sure, but at the same time too high because I'm putting him in that dad
right,
position in my own mind, and it was unfair to him and his memory, and even to myself. And when the military, you have guys coming in who may need that leadership, and like you said, like you become almost like this father figure, which actually makes me think even deeper about how you've taken on the responsibility in your life to take care of your own mind. it's you did it not just for yourself, but you did it for the people around you and the people that you were leading, and you wanted to be a better leadership figure, not father
Yeah.
figure, but leadership figure in general. And that's what I'm interpreting. Is
Yep.
that
Yeah.
about right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was McElwain was that for me.
McElwain was huge.
He
He was like my first like real effect with that, and then when it flowed over to Coogan was like the next big impact for me. But yeah, McElwain was huge. Like
yeah.
McElwain was the leader like I wanted to be.
Yes.
I saw at that time, that was just within 2 years. I saw bad leaders. I saw the the guy. Me with him was, I went to light leaders course, and that's when my spine issues kind of really started. And I gave our readiness guy, the paperwork for it, and like weeks and weeks had gone on. And so I called back and I was like, "Hey, just trying to see like what's going on." He's like, "Why don't you come in?" So I went in, and he said, "What's the full issue?" And I told him about the back and all. I was like, I can manage, but I need to get seen by a doctor. And he's like, "Where's the paperwork?" And I was like, "Oh, I gave it to him." And he's like, "All right, hold on." And you heard them chatter, and he comes to the door, he goes, "Just step out. I'm going to shut the door." And he went off on this guy, and I was just some private or special at the time. I wasn't anybody special or important in my eyes, but he went off on this guy, and I could hear everything he was saying. And essentially, the guy lost my paperwork, and actually was not kind of having that. So he pulled me aside after, and he goes, "Listen, your spine's first. We have this deployment coming up." He goes, "I'm 99% sure you'll be fine as far as combat wise. It shouldn't be anything, but I want your health first. What do you want to do? Do you want to? We can we can hurt you. That way the paperwork can restart. We can start fresh because there's no trail at this point. Or you can go and we'll adjust it from there." And I said, "Well, you're going, right?" And he goes, "No." And that was like a huge I need you for this. And he's like, "Yeah." I was like, "I need you." He's like, "Yeah, I can't go on this one. I've got things to do." So he's like, "You'll be fine." Good leaders though. The first putting the soldier first versus they needed the bodies, whether it was combat or not. And he's like, "I don't want you to go if you don't feel like you're capable. So let's talk." So that was the first kind of soldier first over mission first. I first saw from the leader, and then from there, I went to Coogan, and I just learned everything from that.
Yeah, that sounds like a great role model. Someone that looks out for the soldier's health first, because you might not be able, not saying you didn't go, but you might not be able to go on this one, but we need to get you ready for the next one, to make sure that you're okay. And because honestly, by making sure you're soldier first, it sounds like that's also good for safety. That's also good for, tempo. And if anything does go off, like any kind of combat, you have to be ready for that. And it kind of bleeds over into even your civilian life and your roles that you had in civilian world, where you were manager of people and executing these events and making sure people had to get to the right spot. Did that bleed over into the civilian world where you're looking out for the employees first kind of thing?
Pretty much everything as far as even negative leadership, anything that I've seen, learned, bled over in some way, shape, or form to my civilian life with my prior management jobs, to even now with state corrections, with how I talk to some of these guys and manage them. So, like I said, the military has been a huge structure in my life. It's molded me a lot to what I am now.
Yeah,
That's such a big. You can notice it. You can when you're in these companies and you're used to this leadership style, you can just look at these guys and see how they talk to everybody else and recognize they were a good leader in the military, and you don't even have to they could be in a suit and tie. You can recognize these guys
Yeah,
right off the bat. And with McElwain, like it wasn't even like big stuff like his spine. Like that's like good leadership, but it was small shit. I went to BFT school, his Blue Force Tracker school, right before it was before the deployment and everything. And I remember us being, I think we came back from an AT or something like that, and all of my shit was just ratty as fuck, and they wanted us to be like clean for to be on dicks to go to this school and everything because you had to be clean, I guess. And all of my uniforms were just fucking brown and green from laying in the dirt and all this stuff, even after you wash them and stuff. And they didn't want me to go. And he fucking left the training that the rest of the company was at, went to the clothing place, got me a full set of brand new gear and brought it to me so I could fucking change and go to this class so I could get the points towards promotion. Like this dude he was just fucking squared away on every level. He was there for his guys and
That's
for the big
fantastic.
stuff and the little stuff. And that's where the leadership values come from. And like with my team at Target, right? I tell them the same thing. I said, there's a bar, right? And there's the best friend and there's the complete dictator. And I want to live here but be malleable to be right here. I want to be able to tinker over here and be able to shoot the shit with you and learn about your life. And I have team members who are creating a rug business, and they got a 16-year-old son. And I know about your some medical conditions, and some people have a quiet room that they can come and talk to me about mental health stuff, and I have all this other stuff. And then I've bios of my team. That way they can see that I take interest in their life and I don't see them as machines. But then I don't push it any farther past that towards the best friend zone, because at the snap of my finger, I can say, hey guys, enough playing. We got to work. And then they have that mutual respect where they say, hey, he lets us, shoot the shit, and it's an enjoyable place to work. So when he fucking snaps his fingers, it's not on that middle line. It's a little bit past it. We're giving him that respect, and we're going to give him good fucking solid work. And that's how I work. And that's how these guys like have the mutual fucking respect is so huge in leadership. You can't just be a dictator, whether it's in the military or in these companies. You're not managing robots. You're not leading robots into battle. They are people. They're humans. They have bills. They have feelings. They have all these other things. But at the end of the day, they're there for a fucking job.
Yep.
And you need to be able to manage both. You need
yeah,
to see both sides of them. And as long as they recognize that, you're going to be solid in leadership. There's more keys to it,
yeah. I think
obviously.
that's one thing with the guard. Yeah, it's one thing with the guard. I don't know as far as the active side, but for the guard side, we go to drill together, we do all this stuff. Some of us are in charge people, and then 2 days later, we're on the civilian side at the bar having drinks with each other, and not, there's no military involved. Or like me and Rocky, we used to work together. So like one of the biggest challenges I set to any of my new NCOs now is being able to shut that off, being able to be the leader when you have to be, but also being able to go out with that guy to, have a drink. One of the hardest things I see with these young NCOs now is they can't be a friend when you need to be, but then yell at that person when you need to. I think it's the guards does a pretty good job of teaching people that, with active, generally speaking, I think when they get promoted to, fives and above, normally you change, it's automatic. You go to a different company. I believe I'm not sure if that's still 100%, but with the guard, I've been in my company for 14 years. That's not really that, it's kind of far and few where somebody's been in the company that long. But my guys know how I am. They know that when, like I said, when it's business, it's business. When it's time to hang out, it's time to hang out. I can shut it off like that, no questions asked. I'm a different person. Like we were never friends, but you have to. It's not because I'm trying to be a dick or anything. It's not because I don't respect you or I hate you. It's just when in the military, when it's time to work, and especially with 11 Bravo side, but I'm sure all the MLS is when it's time to work, it's time to work. Like we have to go. You have to shut off that we're best friends, or you're the godfather to my son, whatever it is. If I'm going to yell at you and curse you, there's a reason. It's not just because I feel like it.
Right.
It's because you know better. And the converse side of that is to properly lead, you have to be able to care too. You can't just
Yeah,
like
yeah, for sure.
and yeah,
Absolutely.
I he's always been that kind of leader. It's always been in his blood.
You know, there's something interesting you brought up is the difference between the guard and active. And something I noticed about active is it's a society, right? It's they built up and it's a separate society from the American Constitution. Like they have their own laws, they have their own things they have to abide by in the military, constantly and consistently. And it creates this structure where when I'm above you, I am literally above you both when I'm in uniform and even when we're not. Like on base, like I am always going to be this leader. I'm always going to be this rank. And the guys that I've seen that
Yeah.
have been super successful in being good leaders in the active side are those that can actually separate when they're off duty and when they're on duty. And they're able to treat people like
Mm-hmm.
human, just like in what you've been able to do and accomplish at the guard. And I feel like it is, I don't want to say easier to do in the guard at all. I don't want to say that. I want to say that it's definitely possible is actually more the word. It's definitely more
Yeah.
possible and in allowing that to happen because of the structure and rank and laws that they have to abide by in active. Um, and that I think goes back to the point of why when a Delta Force recruiter is looking at who to recruit, you know, they look at the guy who is in the guard because they know how to have that balance and they know how to have that, you know, they have home life responsibilities and they have military responsibilities. But when you go into Delta, you're full time, obviously. So, um, you know, that's definitely a balance that I now recognize is really important because working with a lot of enlisted and even officers that were full time, you know, active Army or active anything in the military, it's really difficult for them to adjust because it's now you're entering into pure freedom and you didn't get to taste it at all for however many years that you were in, and that transition's so difficult for them. You know, and not saying it's easy for guard because it's not, but it's definitely different, and I can see that.
Yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
big time. So when you were over in Syria, bro, like what was something that you learned? Like what was some high tempo engagement that you got into that you really recognized who you were as a person? Like what are some examples that you learned when you were over there?
So I think the biggest thing was, so with me, I was the lead truck, so I planned all the routes. I took us through wherever we were going. I was that point. You know, I saw the lieutenant and the E7 that were overall in charge of everything, but there was a very small tick that we were in, and there were some shots fired around us, and it kind of got quiet on the radio for a second, and I think it was just my LT kind of processing, trying to figure out what we're gonna do, and I realized should be able to go that way. You know, I had to kind of real quick, whether he was going to say it or not, I had to make the decision where we were coming off the route. We were just going to go straight to the main road so we can get out of the area and get out of Dodge. And that was kind of cool because I always had the fear that I wouldn't be able to turn everything off real quick, not hear. I was able to kind of cut off from my driver, not listen to him because he was trying to chatter and, you know, say, hey, we need to do this. I had the ATAC in my hand, which is basically just like a phone with a GPS. I was able to see the route what it actually was. I could hear like where the general danger was versus where we needed to be. So I knew I could just cut off the route we were going to go. We could just go straight up and kind of push out. So I think that was a big part for me to help my confidence in leading, driving all the missions.
Right, because you're able to finally, in that scenario where bullets are flying, you were still able to think clearly and lead your men and make sure that they were able to get out alive, kind of thing. That's huge, man. Man,
Yep.
I'm so that makes me so fucking proud of you, dude. Like first off, there was no doubt in my mind that you would be able to respond that way. And secondly, you finally were able to get that experience and really see who you are as a person. Because I know that really mattered a lot to you. And could you explain to others who are listening, because there's a lot of guys that listen in on this who have experienced that and who have been through, bullets flying. And what did you pull from that difficult experience outside of just you were able to respond well? What other kind of eh, things did you learn? What are some things you can pass on to others right now?
I think when any kind of shit hits the fan, a big thing that we always say is kind of take a knee, and it kind of carries over into the civilian world to an extent. No matter the circumstance or the heat of the moment, you can pause in a sense, and process everything. You don't have to just make a heated, drastic decision every single time. Sometimes, sure, you can't get out of that, but you don't have to. You have to be able to take the step back, sit down, take a knee, breathe, and just process everything real quick, and maybe not listen to everybody right away. See what you see, and then process, and then talk to who you need to. That goes a long way in the real world. Different jobs, careers, different situations people will be in. It sometimes you have to just take the knee, no matter the circumstances, and process and decide: do I go left, straight, right? Do I sit still? Whatever the case is.
Something that we say a lot on the retreats, and something I love to do on the retreats, is have everybody pause and watch. And it always ends up being a memory that everyone walks away with as one of their favorite memories. And it's so simple. We could be on a hike, we could be around bison, we could be wherever the fuck we are, and just pause and listen and watch. Like that's exactly what you did. You paused, you breathed, you looked, you saw, and then you were able to speak afterwards in a calm manner. That's something that type of experience and being able to pull that learning out of it, Chris, is immense. Many guys walk away from a combat experience like that with they weren't able to calm themselves necessarily out of that adrenaline rush and that adrenaline dump and pull that into their civilian lives as well. And you're doing that. And I really hope we can stress to everybody, especially those who've been through scenarios, either if you're a police officer and there's shots fired, or you're walking into a difficult call like a domestic event, or you're in a fight or something like that. There's always time to stop and pause and just think for, even if it's a second that you pause, you can do it. And it's actually going to help you in the long run. It'll keep you alive, keep you sane, and keep the people around you alive, sane, and better. That is, thank you for sharing that. That is
Insanely good advice.
insanely good advice. And that's something that we try to push here. And I know that's something that we tried to instill from the beginning, even when you and I sat and talked about refit for so long, and where we really tried taking this thing. Right. And I just, man, it's cool to see you actually living it too, like living by those words that we really set the tone for, that's still making a difference today. We just had a message on Instagram. I want to read this to you. Jessica, so she came out on one of our retreats in October last year, and she said, when you stopped and listened on Mount Rainier, I'm glad you had us do that. And because that's the teaching, right? That's the showing through that's the teaching by showing, right? And showing that it is possible to do that. And man, that is just powerful. I'm so happy again that you shared that, and that you were able to prove to yourself. And honestly, it's everything everybody's seen in you for the longest time, that you were able to do that. So now you can see it too with us, which is fantastic. I think that's beautiful. So what other
Absolutely.
and I know that we're running up on time here, and I want to respect that, and we have 6 minutes left. What are some other things, like how you respond to your child, or even in your relationships and things like that? Like, how are you doing in those scenarios now in your personal life?
Responding to the kid is so hard. Because he's like, even when me and Kendall are together, we still have to kind of like remind ourselves at times, like, hey, like, you have to kind of take it back for a second. Because he doesn't understand how to how to use his emotions properly. So it's just right away like I'm just gonna scream. So the it's
Like
funny
little man's gonna
I think
scream.
I do. Yeah, I think I do better overseas. It's and I think it's just because I'll try and talk and explain to him, and Kendall's just like, he doesn't know what you're saying. He doesn't understand it, and she's not wrong. Like I try and treat him in a sense kind of like one of my soldiers and explain it to him, and I'm like, she's right. Like this is pointless.
I
Like
don't know, man. I
so
think that's
uh
important. It's an important habit for you to get
it
into.
no it yeah, for sure. But it's at the same time that like I'm just in a sense like talking to a wall kind of.
Right.
But I catch myself more and I try and just pull him aside and just try to get him to relax, whether it's get his Kendall's does a really good job like kind of changing his
Yep.
attention to something else. So I try to do that. I'm not as good with it, but it's harder. I don't yeah. I talked about in my therapy like I'm working on it, but it's a different beast to kind of which is crazy. But it's different. So yeah, I'm getting there, but it's definitely a little harder because I can't just take a second, take like because he's just right away like he's just gonna scream at you.
Yeah.
So or like he's got zero patience like me with anything, and I see like a lot of like my past like I used to clench and like really he does that now, and so I'm trying to not do that as much in front of him and change my way. So it's teaching me to grow more and change even more habits that I have.
Yeah. That's really cool. That's actually good. It even shows like you're taking your growth journey and still going to be on it, and you're trying to do that for him to
Yeah.
show him how to do that as well. And I think that's fucking awesome, dude. That's something very, very special. Um, So somebody just mentioned here, he said, "Hey, gents, a big part of being a good leader is the ability to go from smoking and joking as their friend in private away from upper leadership to go time when you're on mission and some can't." That's real, man. That's real. 100% real. And that's something actually that we were bringing up earlier when we were talking about leadership. And I guess that can even be applied to with children too, right?
Yeah, for sure.
And
Yeah.
something actually that I watched and witnessed, a mutual friend of ours, Ray Krause, when he had his kid, we were at a softball game, and his kid was crying and flipping out about something. The kid came up crying like I'm hurt or whatever, and then Ray was like, "Put your arms out." And then the kid put his arms out, and then he's like, "Touch your nose," and he touched his nose. He touched your nose with the other hand. Touch your nose with the other hand, and immediately the kid. By the way, his kid stopped crying immediately, and
Yeah.
that's that distraction piece. And then he was like, "Hey, so what are you okay? Or what's going?" And he's like, "I'm fine." And then he just like walked away and kept on playing. And it's like just showing
Yeah.
emotional control to your child in a very, very effective way.
Claire does it.
Yeah.
Dude, that was so
She's
fantastic.
got this like thing where Remy doesn't want to eat, and
Mhm.
she saw this thing on YouTube. She wanted to try it, and she's like, "You got to use all the senses." She's got what she doesn't want to eat in front of her, and say it's like a peanut butter cracker or something. Like she's like, "Oh, pick it up," and she touches it, and she's like, "Well, smell it," and she's like, smells it, and then she's like, "Oh, you listen to it. You gotta listen to it." She's like,
Yeah, yeah.
and then you lick it, and then they just eat it on their own. You don't even have to say like eat it or anything.
Right.
Once they smell it or taste it, and it just goes in.
Yep.
And that's like fucking psychological warfare, to be honest with you. But
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. It's
I
crazy.
definitely, again, Chris, I'm gonna let you go. You probably, what are you going to the gym or something?
No, so we did private dance lessons. So we're about to go into this.
Yeah, we'll tell her to watch her hands.
So yeah, I will. I don't mean to cut you off.
Absolutely,
I gotta
brother.
pay for this parking and all.
Jump off. It was
I'll
awesome
talk to you
catching
boys.
up
I
with
love
you,
you
man.
guys. Ray, good seeing
Love you,
you.
man.
Rocco, James,
I love you
love
too,
you guys.
buddy.
I'll talk to you soon. Later.
So that was Chris, everybody. Really just, again, Chris is he's one of the original guys that really helped form what this organization is and what it's become. And You know, he set the tone a long time ago with us, and from the conversations he and I had and what we're trying to push to. And you know, actually a comment here on Instagram is the most dangerous men are the men with absolute control over their emotions. James's favorite, the stoic characteristics. That's right, brother. That's something I try to practice as much as possible. I'm not perfect at it at all, but it is something I really try to lean into in my life. And Ray actually said,
I'm a noob.
I make him do so. Ray is actually with us right now, and he was the example that I brought up with how he handles his son. He also said that I make him do the chicken dance. At that point, they laugh once you start singing the song. I love that, and it just becomes a fun experience. Whatever the emotion that's going through, and whatever problem seems to be happening, distracting the child into making it a fun experience, and to be able to handle the emotion better in that way. I love that, man. And yeah, so I just again, Chris is somebody that we really, really are just so proud of, and in his growth and his journey. And you know, we're gonna definitely get him back on here, and you know, I'll have him sit down in front of his phone this time and the next time, so that we can actually have that conversation. We lost him a little bit there during the pod here, but
We'll get him in here.
But yeah, I would love to have him here too. Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
really cool, actually. But yeah, nonetheless, I mean, there's a lot of things that we can learn from him, and that you guys can learn from him, and his journey. And yeah, man, it's it's so important for all of us to remember that we really are the writers of our own stories, and we really are able to change how we think just with effort, and true effort. And it's hard when you're struggling, when you're going through bad things in life, money issues, relationship issues, PTSD, memories, things like that. If you put in the work, you can find an outlet and you can find a way through. And that is something that the empowerment piece, it's possible. And we're not talking about you becoming the president of the United States of America. I'm not talking about you becoming, you know, the next great, you know, entrepreneur or whatever. I'm talking about starting your own life, you know, like making you the better person, how you respond to things, and not taking offense to how people react to things that you do, or that, you know, or how they react to anything, really. It's up to you entirely. Like if you get cut off in the middle of a road or something like that, how you respond in that situation. If you hold the door for somebody and they don't say thank you, you chose to hold the door for them. How they respond to you doing that, they don't have to congratulate you. That's just something that's been beat into us. And almost a way I like to put it now, after I'm listening to this really cool book, we've been domesticated with we're the most domesticated animal out there, right? And when people, we get the what is it, the pat on the back, and we need to get that, you know, just that what is it called, man, when with dogs and you're training dogs and you give them the a treat for doing something good. What the hell is that called?
Training.
Yeah, I forget the name of it.
Oh,
But
no. I know what you're talking about. Positive reinforcement.
reinforcement, that's it, baby. Positive reinforcement. Like we've been doing that to ourselves for so long, and we expect that from others. And I think that's a problem. You have to really get yourself to center and stay center so that you can absolutely understand that you are doing things because it's just what you should do. Something Pete, he was a veteran that came on a retreat with us out in Montana a little over a year ago. He literally said, like, I just do the good thing because that's what's important. I do the good thing because, like, I just have to do that. It's what I want to do. I don't, and when he said that, it actually helped us to understand even deeper, for him to understand that's a great place to be in. And don't beat yourself up ever about that. Right. Cause some people get caught in the lie and in the misconception of, when I'm doing something good and just doing good, you should not expect anything good to happen to you in return ever. It's a consistency of you living your life in that way. And I love it, man. The growth. I love Chris,
It's
dude.
insane seeing him, like you said, 2010 him versus, you know, 2025 him
it's insane, dude.
It's different. His laugh is still the same though.
I, his laugh is the shit. But dude, I literally I'm like stuck in just this weird, I'm so proud of him. I'm
Yeah.
so happy for him. The way he handles life right now, it is so different.
Mhm.
His accountability factor is so it's so much improved. And that's something else. The accountability, man, when you really take it on for yourself and you recognize that, again, every decision that you've made in your life has led up to where you are at right now, which means from here on out, if you really make the decision, you can change the outcome in the future. And it's true. It's not kitschy. It's not cliche. It's not bullshit. It's real. And yeah, man, it's unreal. It's awesome to see it.
Yeah, I'm glad he's
He's a
back. I
living
can't wait to
testament.
see, some more of him. I haven't seen him since he's been back yet. Both of us been busy, so first retreat he's going on, I'm going on.
Yeah, I don't think he actually even said to me, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to go on a retreat like this year, but I definitely want to go on one soon because he's coming back home. He's still getting back from deployment.
I'm booking that one.
Yep.
100%.
He's getting
I'm
married.
booking that one.
He's marrying Kendall, proposed to her and everything.
Yep,
So,
yep.
I mean, it's wild, man.
Yeah.
Let me see here. So we have some comments. Yes, I know it's you, Dalton. I appreciate you saying that though. And Kraus said, for sure, I'm stressed like crazy right now. 3 boys is going to be crazy. Yeah, you're going to be all right though, dude. You're fantastic. And it is a big brother moment. It's more like a friend, like a best friend moment to see him accomplish things and do better. And yeah, and we were able to witness the whole process, dude. You're right. And like that is, man, it's so awesome.
Yeah, it's definitely not a big brother moment. I think he got into the unit like the month after I got there. So like I feel like we were like born the same time, and it's just like
Interesting way to put it.
We witnessed each other grow from the pieces of shit that we used to know each other as, like ourselves as,
Sure.
into this new, work of art that, we wanted ourselves to be. And,
Becoming the men you wanted to be.
Yeah, all the things we used to talk about, some of it coming to fruition, and, definitely tugs on some heartstrings.
I'm holding up a sticker. I hope you guys can see it come into focus eventually. We just got
Put your hand behind it. Put your hand behind it. No, like this.
Perseverance. There it is. There we go. Perseverance is a nonprofit that pays for gym memberships for vets. And Joe is the founder's name, and he just joined in. What's up, Joe? I love talking about your organization too, brother, and what you've been able to do and your growth. So he's a Army combat vet. For the longest time, I kept on resorting to Marine, but he's like, dude, I'm Army. I'm like, that's right, Army,
it's the
baby.
worst thing you can do.
Nah, it's all right. He's understanding. But yeah, dude, I am just going back to it. It's more like best friend moment, and so proud of him and so grateful that he was a part of the beginnings of Refit and really helped us morph and form into what we are today. And he really helped me set the tone in terms of where we were going. So yeah, just beyond grateful for it. And thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. Again, we're going to get Chris back on at some point. We're going to have his ass sitting down. Hopefully we'll get him here. Actually, I think that's a great idea. Get him over here and we can all sit around this table or another table and chat and get to hear his story a little bit more, because there's a lot more to it. And, he's a combat vet now. He experienced bullets flying overhead, and he's able to look back on it as a moment where he was able to not freeze or not get scared and lead his men to success. And, that's important for an infantry leader. So, yeah, man, super proud of him. It's awesome. Awesome. So thank you everybody again for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next week. We have some guests coming on. I think we have guests lined up for the next few weeks. So yeah, stick around with us and tune in every Thursday at 12. Thank you, everybody. Oh, and if you want to be a monthly donor, that doesn't help. I'm sorry, that doesn't hurt. That does help. That helps.
Fucking do it.
Yeah, that helps a lot.
Be a monthly donor, damn it.
Yeah. And if you know any corporations that would want to get their name on this and help us out and promoting this podcast and this organization, let us know about that as well.